talking about the alternative fuel incentive grants you've heard, or AFIG grants, to start off. And at the last grant round we had, a lot of people said, gee, I wish we could have some money out there for less than equal to or less than 14,000 pound gross vehicle weight vehicles. And you asked for it, you got it. AFIG is here. Now, that 14,000 pounds and less, that applies only to the LNG and the CNG vehicles to this particular grant round. If you're interested in propane, which the AFIGs cover, or EV, or biofuels, there is no maximum limit for that. Now, these grants are for fleet conversion, so that's defined as 5 vehicles or more, and maybe you have 1 or 2 or 3. We are encouraging that people partner and find other folks. That's part of why I like to say, who else in the room? Talk to whomever you get to. It would be 1 application, but you can have a couple of partners to get that 5 vehicle minimum for these types of grants. Also, it will cover 50% of the incremental cost. Now, maybe that's a new term, but imagine there's a standard vehicle, but to get the CNG or propane or whatever conversion, or to do a retrofit, you're going to have an incremental cost, an extra cost. And so, while we don't pay for the half of the whole vehicle cost, we do pay for half of that added cost or incremental cost. These AFIG grants, as Tish mentioned, are open now. The key date in red here is July 26th, and it probably says in there 4 p.m. And I want to reinforce that you want to get it done before that, because one time I had a fellow call me up at 4:01 and he said, I had everything ready, I pushed the button and it wouldn't take it because it was after 4. So, that worked out for the gentleman, but I don't want anybody else to have that kind of stress in their life. Also, as well as the alternative fuel vehicles, there's also innovative technology. So, we've explained those things. Another requirement is that these are going to have to meet the EPA requirements. And for innovative technology, that would include research and demonstration or pilot projects for the next phase of either alternative fuels or alternative fuel development. And that's a specialized type of grant. It has to be the first time it was ever used in Pennsylvania. And there's more guidelines, more direction and guidance in the actual application guidance. And how you get to it, in case you haven't been there already, is the general DEP website, dep.state.pa, and you type in there the keyword AFIG for the alternative fuel incentive grants. Mark will tell you another place to go for the natural gas grants that should reopen soon. So who else eligible? School districts, municipalities, political subdivisions, nonprofits, partnerships that are incorporated or registered in the state, and partners. Now, these grants, when they are awarded, they will most likely have the grant award date of September 1st, and you'll have 22 months up to 22 months to finalize that. Can you put a down payment on the vehicles before a grant is awarded? Yes, you can put a down payment down, but don't buy anything before you get a grant award if you're counting on being reimbursed for this through your grant, because that won't be covered if you've already paid for it or had it delivered. And again, there's $10 million in these AFIG grants that's eligible. I'll talk here a little bit about some kind of key considerations applying for a grant. Well, as Tish has mentioned, you do your homework, your legwork, you find out the location, etc. But as it relates to this grant, when you go to our website, you will see 2 things. You'll see the guidelines, the specific guidelines for these AFIG grants. And you'll also go to the link for the actual grant application. It's an online application. And one of this you can print out ahead best tip I can give anybody is to read those guidelines thoroughly. They'll answer 90, 95, 99% of your questions. And then at that point,
One thing I do want to emphasize is you've got to be on, is it e-grants?
right,
So you have to sign up prior. If you turn around and wait to get that in, because you've got to have an online e-grants login to get on that. So if you're considering doing something, do that ahead of time, that login. It doesn't lock you into anything, but it gets you as a user word and password to send those e-grants in. And I've had people wait to the last minute and didn't realize that they had to go in and log in, get an ID and everything like that. So
yes,
please plan ahead on that.
good point. And so in those applications, they're very specific. And as far as some other tips or considerations for you, sometimes we get a phone call from people not awarded, and they ask, what happened? And generally, it's a situation where it was in the guidelines, but they didn't read those. For instance, one definitely applied should have one vehicle instead of a minimum of 5. Or somebody didn't show that they had the financial resources. In another case, and we'll see this spelled out in detail on the guidance. In another case, the individual was very liberal in the number of GTEs that he was going to be saving, and that he was going to be using the alternative fuel for. So this time in our AFREE guidelines, you will see very specific. If it's a dedicated CNG, this is what you use. If it's an electrical vehicle, this is what you use. Some of those have a range in it, but please don't miss that. Does that make sense? I see somebody kind of looking quizzically at me.
What about dual fuel? Dual fuel percentage in there as well?
Yes, it's all spelled out there. And when we say biofuel, we're also including the dual fuels. Alrighty, so reading the guidelines, you'll need letters. You'll need a letter from the fueling station that it's available and that they can provide you the amount of fuel that you need. You'll need your match letter saying that here's how much money that you have and that you will be contributing to this project. And then, if you're going to partner with somebody, you're going to need a partner letter, and we had anything from a range of partner letters from, yeah, they're our partner, without anything from the partner, to actual agreements. And so, the more specific you can be, here's our agreement, in writing, and both parties can sign it, the better that will be. Then, in the narration, there's 10 pages, you have 10 pages you can use, so you might as well spell out the details that are needed in the narration. That's your chance to shine, and to show that, yep, we know what we're doing, we're on the ball with this, and be sure to answer all the questions. Gave you most of these. Oh, and here's something too. When you have questions and after you've read the guidelines, you can of course call Mark and I. He mentioned from Blair County East and I'm from Cambria County West, those 9 counties, so call one of the 2 of us. We're happy to help, and we'll be around here today as well. There's also some other events that are coming about, and I thought I would mention that to you. This one will be at the Meadville DEP offices, and they're going to walk people through. My counterpart, Jeff Bristow, will be walking people through how to get online, answering all the specific questions. That will be on July 10th. And then on July 11th, that same kind of a walk through the nuts and bolts of the grants will be held up in Cranberry at the Cranberry Township Municipal Building. And so you can find out more about that by going to the DEP website. And there's a button there, natural gas vehicle. You can click on that.
Hey Maggie, do you mean Cranberry up in Franklin or Cranberry up in
Up in
Allegheny County, Cranberry.
Yeah.
There's also 2 others that they're going to be doing control and reduction technology, as well as what Maggie is doing. There's one on August the 1st in Erie. I'm not sure of the location yet. I have to get that out. And then there's August the 8th, there will be one in Clearfield County. So it's very similar to what we're doing here today. We'll be doing some of that same stuff in there. But you have to realize we're partnering with PADEP to get as much information to as many people as we can about not only natural gas, but all the technologies, but it's the grant side of the program. When I speak, I'll talk a little bit more about federal side. There are also federal grants out there and things.
And if you're not already signed up for Rick's PRCC newsletter, I recommend you get on that. And actually, I wouldn't mind holding the questions because we still have Mark and Rick, and we're going to have a panel then afterwards where we can ask them all kinds of questions. Okay, I said that I would mention about AFIG rebates if you buy your own one alternative fuel vehicle. If you buy a CNG vehicle, you can get $1,000 rebate in cash. Come to your name, cash that check. EV, for instance, $3,000. Now, we're going to start to talk about the other type of grant, the natural gas vehicle grants. And you can read this slide while Mark is coming up.
My name is Mark Hand, and I work in the South Central Management area. Basically, I just wanted to let you know that we had the first round closed of the Act 15 program, which was vehicles that are 14,000 pounds above natural gas, all the different types of oil vehicles, black fuel. And we awarded, there was $10 million available, but we only awarded 6.7 million. And the reason why that happened was because half the money in Act 15 goes to local transportation organizations, and they weren't ready to spend money. So what happens is the second round here that's coming up mid-August, half the money is once again going to be split between the local transportation organizations, which municipalities, people moving companies, and then private sector. So that's coming up, and then so we have 11 million available for the second round. And the projects through the process is open for 2 months, the application period, from starting mid-August, running 2 months. So you have 2 months to get the project in, and then by the time we score the applications and get the awards in, or make the awards, it'll be probably the end of 2017, so you guys are planning for how the money can be spent. And then we're going to do a third round, and the third round of the act is the end of the program. So it's whatever money carries forward in the third round, and at that point in round 3, local transportation organizations, there's no carve out for it anymore. It just goes half on the pot. And then, so when you're trying to get to the natural gas vehicle grant program, you click the DEP website, and there's a big button on the main page that says natural gas vehicle grant program, fueling station. I just wanted to, we pulled some of the results together for this program from round 1, which closed in May. And we had 49 applications and 18 awards. So it's kind of we got a decent start. It's not, a ton of applications, but I have a feeling that it's going to grow. Each round should pick up here. We awarded less than half of those applications, so it's pretty competitive. 311 vehicles will be on the road because of the first round, if all goes well, in next year. And so here you have an idea of the average request to about $300,000. And basically, this is important for you guys that when you're thinking about your heavy-duty projects, and the award-winning projects came in at 206,000 gasoline gallon equivalent per year for the entire application. So that's a pretty significant size. I mean, that was an average for the winning application. And it's about 12,000 gasoline gallon equivalents per year per vehicle. So think about that when you're designing your program. And so we had 33 fuel stations that were proposed in all the applications, and 17 should be awarded. We should see 17 more coming online here. And it's a variety of things from limited access and private access. So I just want to move on a little bit quicker. Essentially, what we're going to do with the program for round 2 is basically we had a limit where if you were working a fleet off of an existing station, you were capped at $300,000 per grant. And if you were building, if your fleet was associated with a new station, you could apply for $500,000. And because we're trying to encourage new stations. So out of the ones that are awarded in this first round, they will be considered an existing station even though most of them won't be built. And the reason why we're trying to do this is we're trying to get more infrastructure, promote more infrastructure statewide. It'll get the job done more quickly. And another area we had struggled with was school buses and school bus contractors. They, some of the school buses they lease, or they have a lease program with a private sector company, and they were falling outside of the LTO category, the local transportation organization. And so we're going to basically have a contract set up where you can have an agreement where the school is the LTO and they have a signed contract, and they bring in the private sector and be a part of the LTO category.
Excuse me, Mark, while you're just in this area here, I wanted to mention to the people who are in this room that we do have people here who won the awards, who are mentioned on this slide. So it's important to note that. I wanted to say that.
Who won awards? Raise your hand.
Yeah, please raise your hand if you won awards.
It was one of our affiliates.
Okay.
Bob, you had something to
Well, we weren't eligible as the station builders, but we were successful with 4 of our clients.
So, I mean, you know, again, you just talked to people that were successful with their clients because they were building stations. And there's other people that got the actual funding, 50% of the funding for their vehicles. And that's important because it is a change. And I'll speak a little bit when I get in there about some of the differences in the past and what they are now as well. Because, you know, this program's been around since about 95, 93, 95, right? Or is it 98?
Talking
For my
AFIC
for
has.
these that Mark is doing there,
This is Brad.
just the second round.
Oh, the Act 13. No, I meant the AFIC program. Great.
Okay, so some things to learn from this first round. The folks that were doing conversions and not buying new fleets or new vehicles, we'd like more information on the EPA compliance on the conversions. A lot of what we got was yes, no, maybe, and we want some more certainty that you're going to be able to get that vehicle that you're proposing into EPA compliance. More description, more information about how long you think it'll take to get there. Basically, we're looking to put more emphasis on the new fueling stations. So, you know, this will be a part of our scoring criteria. We want to, if you're building a station, you're going to be weighted heavier than if you use an existing station. If you build a station with full public access, that's really what we'd like to see. Not everyone can commit to that. That's a major undertaking, but we want to give people credit for that when we score them. And then, of course, there's going to be a date where in the second round that you want to be careful of. You don't want to, as Maggie talked about with AFIC, you can put a deposit down on vehicles, or you can get yourself on a waiting list, but you don't want to actually purchase the vehicles prior to the date that's going to be in the application. And then a few more tips. This is one that kind of got to me. I had a really good project in my South Central region, in the Harrisburg area, and had a nice presentation, and the company really was all over natural gas, the vehicles, and knew a lot about what they were working on. But then when they came to put the application together, it was 2-3 sentences. And that really, I don't know, that was tough to deal with because I know that was a really good project that didn't get funded. And so just because Maggie knows something about your project, I know something about your project, she may know all the details on it. She's not the only one that scores your project. So please make sure you put the details in so that we all know what this project is and pretend like no one knows anything about it. And then of course don't tell us about financial viability. Show us the analysis of these vehicles. Don't just tell us that this is awesome because it's Marcellus shale and it's dirt cheap. You really want to know. You really want to know something about that you did your homework and it's going to be cost effective. And then aggregations are effective. A lot of the long haul private sector companies really this is kind of easy for them because they're logging lots of miles on the vehicles, have heavy loads. They can get a quick payback. It's tougher for smaller businesses, and so we encourage you to aggregate your projects. And it really makes a better project anyway in the long haul because we try to support fueling infrastructure. Hopefully it's more available to more people, so that'll be more favorable. More people you can bring in, especially if you're maybe a smaller company. And then basically in the when we reviewed the applications for the first round, the new dedicated vehicle projects seemed to be, they were easier to work with when we were doing it because of the EPA compliance issues. But you also have more predictable fuel performance than when you're looking at a vehicle with 400,000 or 500,000 miles, whatever. More EPA certainty, and it's maybe something that we can talk about later. And then please don't overstate your fuel displacement. Do your homework, make sure you know how to calculate gasoline gallon equivalents. Show us the calculations. Don't try to trick us, we'll catch it. But essentially, please be accurate on it. Make sure you know how much fuel you're going to use, because that's important to your project. It's important to your financial viability as well. And then, of course, we want to make sure that you have some certainty on the fuel stations. There's a couple right now we're trying to get in the grant agreement phase. Some folks are now talking about switching. It's kind of making them nervous. Where they're going to put the fueling station is in Logan, and they're going to have some parts to make sure that you have some certainty about the fueling station. Talk to Peoples, make sure that the fuel supply is there and it's actually viable that way. And then Maggie's going to come back on and finish it up and wrap up the EV section.
Thank you, Mark. One last thing. Now, this is the grant and loan type that I told you DEP is not involved with, but I thought you might want to know a little bit about it. Here's the website to visit it, newpa.com, and the keyword search will be ACE, A-C-E, and these are rolling applications. So what that means is you could put in an application now. For what? Remember when we did our first round of the natural gas vehicles, people said, oh, there's no money for infrastructure. You asked for it, you got it. For the first time, these ACE grants and loans now cover infrastructure. They've been around for a while, but they now cover the fueling station and the equipment. So the maximum grant amount is 30% of the total project cost, up to a maximum of $2 million. Okay? And the maximum grant
just for those folks that know, in the ACE program, there were, I believe, 5 stations awarded under the ACE program. 2 of them were my members of PRCC, BMAC Trucking, and American Natural, another subsidiary of Cleopatra Resources, who's going to be putting a number of stations in our area, in the Pittsburgh area. We appreciate all the speakers, and like I said, there'll be a lot more of these. I will try to move through quickly so we can stay on time here, because some of this stuff will be repeated. But again, Pittsburgh Region Clean Cities is part of the National Clean Cities program. For those who came in late, we're a partnership with the Department of Energy. This whole petroleum reduction technology was funded by DOE and done by the National Alternative Fuels Training Consortium. One of our colleges, community colleges in Pittsburgh, belongs to them. We help support that. We do education things. Our sustainable members also, we pay the tuition. Hello, you. Good to see you.
Hi, good to be here.
And then they can, so we're teaching that. In fact, we're going to start moving that to other parts of the state, including up at the O-ring training facility that was just put in. So there's a lot of stuff going on there, and you'll see me go down. So I'll try to move through this quickly to stay online so we can get the other people in. So again, U.S. produces 18.1% of worldwide. They were the second largest producer. Everybody saw they said around 120,000. I think we're around 130,000 now. And I know we're more than 15.2, but these are ones. So again, this program is all part of there. So we have that program. Again, I'm going to go through this because this is stuff that was already done in the video. But again, you looked at 3,000 to 3,600 psi. When natural gas first was then back in the late 80s, early 90s, we only went to 3,000 psi. Okay, there are still stations out there that only go to 3,000. So when you look at Letitia's car out there, the Honda, you'll see 2 fill marks on it. The first fill mark that you come up to is a 3,000 fill. And then you go all the way over, it's a 3,600 PSI fill. So you have to, you heard Aaron talk about, well, natural gas goes up and it does dissipate, okay? And then you have LNG, which is another form of cryogenics for doing LNG, and that's usually used in long haul trucks that are running all the time, and so there is a little boil, but when you're using it all the time, it's very minimal to do that, and it is a little bit more expensive for LNG because of the cryogenic side that you have to turn around and liquefy that. You asked about dual fuel. Dual fuel is usually in the heavy duty range. It's not in the light duty range. Very few. Even though Chrysler does pop their pickup truck as a dual fuel, it's really a bi-fuel.
I was more along the lines of converting, not.
Yeah, but dual fuel normally is in heavy duty diesel where you do get that, and I'll talk a little bit about it. It's about that. You usually are talking bi-fuel in the light duty side when Maggie was talking about the AFIG program. You're going to see, and there are 2 of the bi-fuel vehicles out here, one by Ford and one by GM, and Chrysler also makes one as well. So again, you just turn around. This is just kind of a little use of what's going on. You hear people saying, we have all this natural gas under our feet. I will tell you today, if you look across, they're building a pipeline right across the state of Pennsylvania. They're getting ready to move that to Philly and move it in LNG overseas. India and Europe got building facilities to sell. If we don't use it here, they're going to ship it because the gas company's going to get their money. And that's really funny, and folks say, it's about, I think we're somewhere close to $4 an MCF right now, which is about 8.1 gallon equivalency out of 1,000 cubic feet. Even if it doubled in price and went to, say, $6 or $8, your cost per gallon equivalency is about a quarter or 30 cents. That goes up immediately as soon as something happens in one of the countries that are supplying that. You hear me talk about sending $60 million a minute overseas to people that don't like us. I'd rather spend it here in the States and in Pennsylvania. So again, this is just kind of a chart to show you kind of where our use is. 1% being used for a vehicle fuel. And you see a lot of people now moving, a lot of power things going to natural gas as well. And so it's not new, it's something that's been around. Just some comparison of gasoline gallon equivalency, some of the energy content, just basic information for those. Please take some of there's 3 brochures here that we give out at every one of these PRT events that are provided under this clean program. They're facts and everything, they're backed up by fact. Take them with you so you can take them back to people to use as reference for, and you can also use our website. This vehicle here is Honda. Tish has one out here, David Dix up in Honda, at Dix Honda up in State College. I've refueled there at the Lehigh, the Unimart there, Lehigh gas station. There, they basically wander around. They use CATA's compressors to do that. That's been there for a while. I think it's $2.13 a gallon when I was there just about a month or so ago. There's some great deals right now on a Honda. The 2012 new ones. I know our Honda dealer down in Pittsburgh, Dean Honda, is selling them right now for just over $22,000. That's not including if you get a $1,000 cash rebate from the state and they're giving out a fuel card, a Visa fuel card that doesn't expire for $2,000. That means you would probably have to go more than 2 years before you ever have to buy natural gas again using that fuel card. So they are a great deal, but there's only a few of them left now before the price jumps back up for the 2014 or 13s. Again, we talked this, I'm not going to go over that because we've already beat that in there. Again, we thought that some of the benefits, advantages, so we've talked about all that. You know, natural gas, again, how many jobs, and you'll hear other people talk about keeping jobs in Pennsylvania. I get a report every, about once a month from the governor's regional about how many jobs the gas industry is supporting here. It's 87% of natural gas is the U.S., but it's like 90 some odd, what is it, over 92% of natural gas comes from North America. So we talked a little bit about infrastructure. This is real ending, biogas and methane. Waste Management in Washington, PA has 6 natural gas generators running from their methane coming out of their landfill that basically supplies all of their electric power to their facility there and sells enough natural gas, or sends enough electric back for 2,500 homes for a year. So this is another one. We have another one, Vogel Disposal in our area, that wants to clean their fuel up and move it in there. Just a new trash hauler that just was part of one of our grants, and they just put a new station in there. Just again, you saw some of this in the video, but we move it around. It's amazing, you know. There's a lot of misinformation and things out there about fracking, but you know, every one of these drilling companies have about 3,000 subcontractors, and to err is human, but they try to be safe, and they are. But I was telling you, about 4 miles from my house at what they call Trax Farms in Washington County, one day I looked up and there's this big rig, 200-300 foot in the air with a flag on it, running day and night with the lights on for 3 months, and it's gone. And I don't even know it's there now until I see the road that goes up there. It's all fenced in and all that. I mean, it is safe. We have 110 years or so of natural gas here for us. So it's going to be moving on to 2 or 3 generations down the road, and that's what they know about right now, not even talking about what we have under the ocean and other shale things. So this is a little bit about distribution. This shows you how much distribution there is in natural gas. So as you can see, so why are all the different technologies going on? I will tell you right now, there's an LNG corridor runs from LA to Salt Lake City, and UPS is running over 200, I think it's 200 LNG tractors. And there's an LNG station in Smithton on Interstate 80. There's one being built right up by Carlisle, and there's already one up on Interstate 80 around Clearfield area up there. That's for long hauls, and I'm going to tell you why. Don't be surprised you start seeing the UPS we're running them from New Stanton to the warehouse in Carlisle, because when I drive to Harrisburg and Philadelphia, I pass 15 or 20 double wide UPS tractors going down there, and there's a great deal of savings on that. Again, we talk about the residential. We have the people here that talk about infrastructure. you go out to our website, I hope to get it up, but I couldn't get the internet working here today. We have a list of stations that are both public, private, and planned that I'm aware of. And as I get aware, I try to update that every couple of months on there rather than have to go out to a national one. We're trying to do that same thing with all the technologies. I'm also trying to emphasize propane stations being put in under new natural gas stations, because 70% of propane is now coming from natural gas rather than oil, rather than petroleum refinery. And so that's why now you're able to lock in a lot better price on propane as well. And again, you know, we're fuel neutral in clean cities, so we're working all the technologies. I believe this is somewhere over 1,300 now stations. We have, I believe, over 40 natural gas stations right now in Pennsylvania, and that's just growing almost weekly. We talked a little bit about the unit. This is a 1 gallon an hour unit. I started out in the Department of Energy with 2 of these, and I had 17 CNG vehicles, and they come in at night. I turned around and said, okay, you people fodder, because these are nothing more than an appliance. There's even a half a gallon an hour called a fill, a home unit. We just bought one of those for the community college to install. The Community College of Allegheny County, where we're teaching alternative fuel classes, and then we talked about fill stations. A lot of people can talk about that. We've already had some more, and so I'm going to move on from there. Again, like everybody said, the most expensive thing in natural gas is the tanks, the cascades in store for fast fill, and the tanks that go in the vehicle. CP Industries in McKeesport, PA is soon to be making Class 4 tanks, which is going to bring a lawful cheap tank or least expensive tank, and a Class 4 tank right in Pennsylvania, which is going to really help us as well in that area. Again, this is one type of dispenser that we have here. If you go to our website, you'll see our website then. There's actually 2 videos out there that show you how to refuel natural gas. This is one LNG. The Sunline was out in Palm Springs. I did ride on a I think that's the Sunline. I think it is out in Palm Springs. But we had a chance to do all this, and LNG's coming. If you look at the clean energy, the CNG highway, you'll see a lot of these stations going in, and they announced a lot more. So we are trying to build those corridors, 99, 220, all of these are all in line for that. Again, it's very safe. Again, the sustainability because of that. I believe basically the biofuel and the dual fuel is a kind of transition for vehicle folks as well, because of the infrastructure for natural gas is very expensive if you're looking at a quick fill and something going on. So that's how we work strategically within our gaseous fuel committee and with our members to try to strategically think that what we call wheel and spoke. Get one there and then be able to spoke some more out from there, and you're starting to see that. Like I said, I think there's already 3, I believe, along Interstate 80 already. We've got some going in on Interstate 79. We actually have one or 2 there right now with Washington, PA, and down in Crafton, and then there's one going in Cranberry, and some more going up to Erie as well. And now we need to work on 70 going over to Breezewood and Harrisburg, and then 81. And there's some more going on now that are just going in on 90, is Interstate 90. So that's those corridors that we need to build, and then we can work with the individual companies. But this is kind of repeating some of that. You see this here displaced nearly 360 million gallons. I was at the DOE Clean Cities 20th anniversary Monday in Washington, D.C. We are now, Clean Cities programs, since its inception in 1993, we have displaced, just our coalitions, 5 billion gallons of gasoline gallon equivalency of petroleum-based fuels since 1993. I remember doing our first billion in 2004. We're already now, and our goal in Clean Cities is to get to 2.5 billion a year through working through Clean Cities and our members to get the word out. This is nothing more than an education forum for all folks to understand, to network and learn about where there is some potential benefits in funding. But again, it's about networking and getting that understanding so everybody's get away from a lot of misnomers about alternative fuels. So this is a little bit just the basic parts. You can look at that. I believe that's similar to the Honda Civic that's sitting out there. You go out and look at the basic component parts of that. Again, dedicated vehicles. This is the only vehicle because off the assembly line. I think it's almost 20 years now. It's been coming off the assembly line in Indiana, I believe it comes off. Honda Civic, and I had one for 5 months, never paid more than $11.96. And when I got it, I think it had 250 mile on it. I gave it back at like 5,800 mile. And I averaged city and highway 32 miles per gallon. So I can vouch for that. I've driven it. In fact, there's a video, I think, riding in it with Trish driving. I think we did a video on that. Like I said, biofuel technology, I believe that these two are trying to transition until we do get the infrastructure in. It's not for everybody, so I'm not, I won't sit here and say, that natural gas, light duty or heavy duty is for you. We've got to do your analysis, but we can help you with that stuff, and where grants can turn around and help you do that. All that does is speed up your return on investment. It's not rocket science to do a lot of these things. And here you got a natural gas, I heard Aaron say 50–60%. That's on about an average for a dual fuel, but you can get as high as 90% efficiency. 90% natural gas and only 10% diesel. For instance, if you're on a level highway going out and you're going 70 mile an hour, you're probably at that 90% efficiency rate. But if you're going up the big hill up here going up into Evansburg, you're probably more at the 50% range because you need that diesel to get that extra added power to pull that weight load. Again, this is just a little bit about that, just tells you the little difference things. Again, about the storage tanks, or as you heard Aaron talk about class 3 and that, there are 4 classes of tanks. This kind of explains the learning, but type 1 is the cheapest, it's also the heaviest. And then all the way to type 4 is nothing more than a plastic and composite wrap. Those are the most expensive. And in between there as well. Kind of just shows you a view of those tanks as well. But they are very safe. We can show you a lot of videos, fact videos, where they've had to shoot it with armor-piercing bullets to do that. They're definitely safer than a gas line. I'd much rather be run into from behind in one of these than I would in my gasoline tank. Because it ignites a lot faster. It also puddles where gas goes up.
Go to YouTube CNG tank testing. Just YouTube that. You'll see everything they do to those tanks.
So again, we're just trying to show you that it is safe. It has been around since well, a lot longer than in my area. We have people that have been running it since the 80s in natural gas. And a lot of the RRI city uniforms have been running it since 90. I got one of my bread companies been running propane since 1980. And I used to buy stuff off these guys and I didn't even know they were running it. Now that I do this every day, every time I ride down the road, I'm looking at the vehicles to see if it's an alternative fuel vehicle. And again, what people don't understand about natural gas is your tanks do need to be inspected every 36,000 miles or 3 years. That's a visual inspection. Those, as of January, I think last year, there were only 17 inspectors in the state of Pennsylvania. 8 of them were at Giant Eagle. Giant Eagle's the biggest user right now that I know of in our area. Just in 10 Class 8 tractors for 1 year and another 10 for a half a year, they displaced 243,000 gasoline gallon equivalency. So you're bringing that in probably somewhere around $1 or $1.25 a gallon. Their return on investment, like Aaron said, is around 16 months on a brand new dedicated Volvo with a Cummins Westport engine. Just wanted to kind of show, Tish at Peoples has one of these in a biofuel, this Ford Transit, so they're folks I think that run the mail on that as well. But you can order just about any vehicle. You have the F250, 350, 450, 550, and 650. You can ship through, order through on any Ford dealer on those. You can get the 2500 and 3500. And the GM ship through, order through again. It just goes down the assembly line with the hardened seats and valves and gets moved over to an upfit, and it comes back and comes right to your dealership on there as well. and then the Chrysler has the 2500 and the 3500 with the Hemi. And I have driven both. I've had the Chrysler for 6 weeks, and I just turned back in the GM one on Wednesday that I had for a month. And they are definitely, I just drove that thing on Monday all the way from South Park, PA, just 12 miles out, all the way to Rockville, Maryland on one tank of gas, which is about 215 miles. So I can vouch for that as myself. It's amazing. UPS has quite a few natural gas vehicles and LNG. I was sitting working just north of Denver a year and a half ago, and I pulled in. I was at a DOE facility there, and I pulled up in front. What's sitting but a UPS of natural gas truck? So inquisitive me, I've got to ask the driver. I see you're driving the natural gas UPS truck. How do you like it? He said, that's not bad. I mean, you don't really see it. I said, how long have you had it? He said, about a year. I said, where do you refuel it? He said, back at the depot. I said, well, how many you got? He said, 200. They have 200 of these in Denver running and have been for about 2 or 3 years up there. So when you see companies like UPS, Waste Management, Giant Eagle, and a number of the other ones moving to that, they're doing it for an economic reason. Yeah, they like to have the tout themselves as green, but it is a technology there, and you know, I'll always talk about energy security because I do believe that is a little bit about fleet applications. If you're dealing in fleets and you have unions, or even if you don't have unions, you need to turn around and get buy-in of your drivers, of your mechanics. All of the thing has to work together, because if you have a union, you have a naysayer there. It's about educating. I remember going to the natural gas class down at AFTC with Giant Eagle. I had a lot of the old folks, because I'm old and I don't like a whole lot of change either. And this guy here, after a 3-day class, this guy was saying, hey, now every time I go into the Giant Eagle garage, I got to jag the guy and saying, hey, that's was that natural gas blowing. It is really good. I mean, they're seeing. In fact, Giant Eagle's got 40 more tractors on order. We've got a number of BMAC Trucking has 20 on order. There's a number of heavy-duty folks that are moving to the natural gas. So again, let's talk a little bit about this. I'll stay away from the grant side of the house, because that is what Maggie spoke about. The tax incentives here within the state, there are tax incentives under the program. There's a $3,000 cash rebate in the state. There's $1,000 for natural gas. There's also $1,000 for propane. So that's one thing that Maggie didn't have on her limit, was the propane. Under the federal grant side here, we have the DOE has grants out there from time to time on DOT, EPA. We just finished up. We finished it up at the end of this month. An EPA clean diesel grant. What's really nice about the clean diesel grant, you folks that are looking into heavy duties, and usually you got to have quite a bit of cost sharing in there, but it's not 50% of the outfit cost. It's 50% of the cost of the vehicle. That's quite a bit more than what it is. We just finished up a grant for 18 natural gas vehicles. We received $888,750 from EPA, and we had about $2.3 million or so in cost sharing. So think about that. One of our participants was a trash hauler. A trash hauler runs about basic diesel version or a natural gas version. The smaller runs run about $285,000, and bigger ones like $385,000. If I could turn around and pay 25% of that cost, which I did, we gave them over $640,000. We also did, Giant Eagle got a yard jockey that's been running around, and that was part of our program. And I won't name the gas company, but we had another gas company in Pittsburgh that was that received seven new gas utility vehicles, but we had 18. Think about that, because those of you who are in the heavy duty diesel vehicle things, now you got to destroy the old engines. You can also, there's something, but look into that clean diesel program. It's an EPA clean diesel program. It's there everywhere. I don't know if it's open right now or if it just closed, but you can go to our website and just click on resources, look at funding opportunities or incentives, and all the active ones are there. I don't like to send a ton of email, because my outreach is almost 1,000 people, so they'll put me on block and then nobody will read any of my stuff. So I only try to put events out and newsletters out is kind of what I try to do So that's one. Also, the state also has a clean diesel program. It's only about $500,000 a year. That's another one to look at as well there. And then USDA has some as well. So, you know, again, you look at this talks about natural gas stations backed by Legend, by Keller, so you can see, you know, none. Because this is really something. You know, there's a lot of the truck companies and bus companies, natural gas, they're built right in here. And they got to go around West Virginia. West Virginia used to have a number of stations because they're trucking those very expensive. Now they're driving them. So there's going to be some new stations right along 79 in Pennsylvania, right up 79 as well. I remember being at Giant Eagle station about 6 months ago, filling up one of the natural gas vehicles I had, and I see this bus coming out. I said, that's not a Port Authority bus. I looked on the side and it said City of New York. They were coming through, driving it up from North Carolina and refueling at Giant Eagle and heading it up to New York.